Hi, my name is Pooja. If you are new to my channel, then here's a quick little something about me. I love painting using watercolors, and through my videos, I want to teach you everything that I know about watercolors. I paint pretty much every other day, and I believe that practicing daily makes a lot of difference in your art. So, in today's tutorial, we are going to paint a cute little clownfish like this one. Let's take a super quick look at the art supplies and get started. We are going to need watercolor paper, and if you are using watercolor paper, then make sure you're using the textured side of the paper. I always like to remind this to kids especially because they tend to not know the right side while using watercolor paper. So it's very important that you use the side that has texture on it, which is the correct side and will help you for blending your colors nicely. And then we are going to need some watercolors. We are going to need just a few colors: orange, red, and a shade of grey or black itself. So basically we are just using 3 colors today. So it's going to be very straightforward and simple. We are going to need a round brush. I always prefer a size 6 or size 8, and maybe a small size brush to do some fine details such as the eye of the fish, but it's totally optional. We will need a pencil and an eraser to do the sketch, a cup of clean water to rinse your brush, and some tissue paper to dab and dry your brush. So that is all we need for today's project. So let's look at the clownfish that I have already painted for your reference. So we are going to first sketch the main body of the fish, the tail, and then add some fins around it. And then we will make some sections to show the orange and white stripes. Okay, so I'm going to place this reference fish on the left hand side so we can refer to it while sketching. So let's start by drawing the main body of the fish. I'm starting out by drawing a C curve on the top and the bottom, something like this. Maybe I want the main body to be a bit thicker, so I'm going to make it a little bigger, and then I'm extending the ends to form a tail which is in the shape of a hand fan. So using that as a reference, you can just draw a quick little tail. Make sure the tail is not bigger than the body of the fish. Okay, so now I'm just erasing some extra lines. Alright, so this is how the main body of the fish should look like. Okay, and then we will start by drawing some sections. So there's a small section where the tail starts and the body ends, so I'm drawing a small line, and then there's white section, and then there is an orange section like so, and then I'm drawing a small section to show the face of the fish. There are 2 borders around it. Okay, so these are the few sections, and in the middle there is a fin, a small little fin, so I'm just quickly going to sketch that. It is in the shape of a triangle with circular ends, something like that. And then I'm drawing a small line to make a section over there. So there's a white section between the 2 orange sections on the body. And then I'm quickly going to draw the fins. Now, if you observe, there are 4 fins on the sides, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. So these fins are aligned with the orange sections of the body. So if you see wherever there's an orange section, there is a fin in the middle portion. And then I'm moving to draw the eye of the fish. I'm drawing two concentric circles. Now, to make it easy for you to understand, I'm going to write or mark the sections as orange wherever we have to place the orange color later on. So it will be easy for you. Of course, you can always refer to the reference picture that we have on the left hand side, but I don't want you to get confused with the sections, so I'm just going to name them orange. And then between the orange sections, we are going to have these three white sections. So we are going to leave them as it is for now. So this is our final sketch. Let's take a closer look. If you want, you can also mark the orange sections before you start to paint. Now you can go ahead and finalize your sketch. You can erase the pencil lines that you don't need. If your sketch is very dark, then go ahead and lighten your sketch by simply gliding the eraser, which is what I'm doing. I don't want my pencil lines to be seen through the color in the end. Okay, now let's swatch the two colors that we are going to need to paint the body of the fish. The first color is going to be plain simple orange. That's going to be the first color. And then we are going to mix a bit of red into our orange. So mix your orange first and then add a tiny bit of red into it. We don't want to use red directly as it is in the palette, but we are going to mix it with orange to make a darker shade of orange, like so. So these are the only two colors that we are going to use to paint the entire body of the fish wherever we have marked our sections as orange. So orange and a darker shade of orange with red mixed into it. Now let's begin by painting the tail first. I'm applying some water on the tail section. Just a thin layer of water. And then using our good old wet on wet technique, we are going to drop in some orange color now from the top portion of the tail. And you will see that it starts to blend beautifully on the paper. I'm adding a bit more of the orange color. And once I have placed my orange color, I'm going to use the darker shade, which is orange plus red. And I'm just going to place a little bit of that color from the other end of the tail. And merge the two colors nicely. If you have been following my other tutorials, you probably are comfortable with wet on wet technique by now. Okay, so the section after the tail on the left hand side is going to be white, so we will move on to the section after that, which is marked as orange. So now we are painting the body of the fish. Just like how we did the tail, I'm going to start by applying water on the orange section. For time being, I'm going to leave out the fins next to this section, so we will just do the middle portion. I applied a layer of water and then dropping in my orange color. The method is going to be the exact same like how we did the tail. So using this method, we are going to cover all the orange sections. A layer of water, then some orange, followed by the darker orange shade, which is orange plus red. So it's quite straightforward. Okay, I'm just blending the orange color nicely. And we are going to drop in the darker orange shade on the top portion. Like how I have painted in my reference picture. Just a little bit on the top. And then we are going to blend it. If you look at the pictures of this fish, it's quite bright. The orange color is just very cheerful and obvious to the eye. So I want to make sure that we keep a lot of that fresh orange color and not cover it with too much of red. So be mindful of that. Okay, moving on. So now comes the middle portion near the face of the fish, which is again orange. And before I do the body section, I'm going to paint the fin, which is in the middle. And then when that dries up, we can move on to the orange section underneath it. Okay, so that was my layer of water, and then I'm placing some orange color on the fin, and then dropping in the darker color. Just keeping my edges very clean and soft. Okay, now let's move on and finish the face of the fish. Make sure that you leave the eye out because we want to do the eye in the end. So be mindful of the circle that you've drawn and place your color and the water outside of it. So that's my layer of water on the face of the fish. And then I'm adding a bit of orange, blending it nicely. Okay, just a tiny bit of darker orange at the bottom of the face. Okay, now let's do the fins on the top and the bottom. So there are two fins on the top and two fins at the bottom. It's quite straightforward the way I'm painting the fins. We are going to use the exact same method. Let's repeat. A layer of water, then some orange color, and then the darker shade of orange. Let's drop in the darker shade of orange, which is orange plus red, on the right hand side of that fin. Now let's paint the fin on the top. I'm quickly going to paint all the fins and come back to painting the remaining section. Okay, so I went ahead and quickly painted the remaining fins on the top and the bottom. And now we are going to paint the middle section of the fish, which is right underneath the middle fin. So by now the fin in the middle must have dried. Make sure that it's dried up, and then you can start placing water on that section. So I'm just going to place my layer of water around that fin. Make sure to leave the white sections on the left and right hand side. Please refer to the picture of the fish that I've already painted and be mindful of the borders of the white sections. Now I'm dropping in the orange color very close to the border of that section, and then I'm going to start pulling that orange color into the orange section like so. Make sure the tip of the brush is moist so you won't get dry patches. At all times make sure that your brush never dries out because of using very less water. If your brush is dry, you're going to get very harsh lines and you won't be able to blend smoothly. Just applying a bit more of orange color. And now some darker mix of orange and red. I'm applying it from the top and bringing the color down. Just a bit of color around the border. And with a dry brush, I just dabbed my brush on the tissue. I'm just going to blend everything together. I'm being very mindful of the middle fin. I'm making sure that I'm not gliding my brush on top of it, but sweeping my brush just around it very softly. Okay, so we have finished all the orange sections of the fish. That was quite easy, I would say. So there we have it. Now we are going to wait for this to dry completely and then do all the remaining details with a grayish black color. Okay, so now I'm just going to check and make sure that my clownfish is dried completely. We are at the final stage of finishing the fish. So the only part left now are the black borders or the black edges which are present on the body of the fish, the fins and the tail. So to do this, I'm using a small size brush which is a round size 1. It's a bit smaller compared to my regular brush that I use. And let's start mixing some gray color on the palette. Now I don't want to use black color directly because it's going to look strikingly bold. So instead I'm using a darker shade of gray, but it's absolutely okay if you don't have a gray color in your palette. You can use black color, so don't worry about that. And make sure that your gray color is not very watery or runny because we want the gray color to stay on place. So start by making a very thin border at the back of the tail, at the very back of the tail. And instead of drawing a straight line, try to make really small brush marks and then fill them up. We don't want the edges to be really smooth or curvy. They can be a bit crooked. Now let's do the border at the point where the tail starts. So I'm just doing a small rough border where the tail of the fish begins. I'm just filling up the color properly. Okay, now the next border is going to be around the orange section. So I'm just drawing a not so perfect border by making small brush marks and not drawing a straight line or a curved smooth line so that it looks more natural. Okay, so far it looks like this. Let's do the fins now. The fins are a bit thicker on the sides. Okay, so that's our fin at the bottom. Now let's do the fin at the top. I'm going to keep it slightly thicker on the upper part of the fin and a bit thinner on the sides, like so. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the other fin. Okay, now let's do the fin in the middle. Okay, let's do the fin on the top now. Okay, so that's the fin at the top. We still have to finish the borders on the body of the fish. So those are still left. Now let's do the two borders near the face of the fish. Now these borders are very thin. So I'm just drawing a very rough crooked line, not adding any thickness to it, like so. Okay, so that's done. Okay, let's do the mouth of the fish and the eye. A small line to show the mouth of the fish. And if you remember, we drew two concentric circles for the eye. So I'm filling up the circle which is inside. So there'll be a thin white ring around the black circle. Now let's see if we have missed out on anything. We can do the white sections with a very light shade of gray, like how I've done in the reference picture. But if you're not very sure about that, you can just leave the white as it is. So on a clean section of my palette, I'm mixing a very light shade of gray and brown. You can just say that it's almost water or slightly muddy water, but don't add too much color to it. So I'm just placing a little bit of this muddy paint on the white portions just to give it some highlight and shadows instead of leaving the paper blank. I'm going to repeat that in the middle section as well. There is a small white section near the face of the fish, so I'm going to put just a tiny amount of watery paint over there. And I see that there's one section left to do the black border. I think our fish is looking complete now. I'm just going to erase the marks which I had made earlier to point out the orange sections. So let me just clean my paper and we will take a closer look to see if we have missed out on anything else. I think I'm quite happy with the way this fish has turned out. I hope you had fun painting with me in this tutorial, and do let me know in the comments section below which was your most favorite part of the video, and if you have any suggestions what you would like to learn from me the next time, please leave your comments and I would love to read them. Before we sign off for today, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching. Take care.